Welcome to Data Driven Health Radio.
All right, so welcome everybody to episode number 1 of Data Driven
Numero uno.
Health Radio.
Yay!
And on this show, we want to look at how people can use technology and data to become more empowered and learn how to more intelligently manage their health. So, with that said, I was thinking to myself, who is a total badass that I can have on show number 1 who loves data, first of all, and is brilliant at interpreting data and how we can use it to improve health. And so I have one of my best buddies here, Grace Liu. And Grace, please say hi and give us a little intro.
Hi. Thanks, Dave. Thanks so much for having me on your inaugural number 1 show. I'm so pleased and happy to be here. Such an honor.
Thanks, Grace. So some people may know you as the Gut Goddess, which is an incredible name and an incredible Twitter handle. And also the Poo Princess is in circulation. So which one should we use here?
Oh, either. I answer to anything.
All right. Cool. Well, what I'd like to do is actually start with some basics around gut health. When I was first working on my health transformation, that's the first thing that my functional doc looked at that had never been looked at before by any other doctor. And sure enough, there was a bunch of infection happening there. So I want to just, and even within the Heads Up community, we have a lot of people who may have never done any testing on gut. We have a lot of people on very low carbohydrate diets, which has implications around gut health. So I would love to just start at the beginning of like gut microbiome 101. And then what I'm hoping we can do is look at some of the things that harm our gut bacteria, everything from antibiotics to environment. Second, then look at some of the testing methods that you recommend, from just the Bristol stool chart, basics that anybody can do for free.
Which you added to Heads Up for me.
Yes,
I'm
we did.
so appreciative of that.
To the more advanced and more expensive testing, like the organic acids test. So we'll start with like what messes up gut, how can you assess it, and then what can people do from a treatment point of view. And if we have time, maybe we can get into some data and look at some numbers.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of visual stuff that we can do. And
awesome.
We want to get nerdy and we want to get into the data. So if you could, Grace, just give us like the basics on what even is the microbiome for people who have never heard of it or done testing or maybe heard of it in passing.
Okay. So imagine a tennis court, and let's say it's covered with it's not sterile, right? It's outside. So anything outside has microbes growing on it. It could be viral, fungal, or bacterial, or anything in between. Microbacterium, phages, which are just teeny things that infect viruses. And we have even protozoa and parasites and worms, like helminths. Mm-hmm. So imagine a tennis court in someone's gut. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what it is. The surface area, so we can absorb food, is highly optimized and efficient because humans developed this huge ass brain, all right, and then we had to fuel it. Mm-hmm. We had to fuel the fat big brain, and that took a lot of incredible nutrients on Earth: proteins, carbs, and fats. These are all things that our ancestors didn't eat. Primate ancestors only ate fruit, pretty much, and a few stems and leaves. So there was this radical change, and it took a factory to break down these foods for us and assimilate them and upregulate them into our cells. That's called the microbiome. They're the microbes that do all that. And our gut is actually open. That's why it's so hard to treat sometimes. It's actually one of these things, because it's open tongue to tail, where we have openings in the mouth, and the anal rectal area. Yep. But we actually have a whole terrain. When we talk about microbiome, we're actually talking about not just the gut. We're talking about oral, even eyes, anything with mucosa. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I work with clients, we even look at nutrigenomics because it determines actually some of our vulnerabilities where we have mucosa. So it could be eyeballs, sinuses, throat, vaginal, prostate areas, anything open to air.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the terrain. Yep. And we mess this up really easily. Yep. We may not even get the full complement from our moms when we're born, through through the passage through the birth canal of mom, she's supposed to inoculate the baby with poo and like vaginal secretions, all the things necessary for life. Poo and vaginal secretions are actually necessary for baby.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, baby cannot have an immune system. The baby cannot digest food or even milk. Baby can have a lot of immune issues because there's no immunity for the baby when it's born. It has zero immunity. It's from mom. It's from breast milk, the immunoglobulins in breast milk, and the flora. The flora communicate constantly with our immune system. 80% of our immune system is in the gut, and it's actually flora.
Yep.
And actually, when we use probiotics, we can reverse a lot of this and restore actually immunity. We can reverse autoimmunity, reverse cancer, reverse all kinds of things. Studies are showing that in animals, but we see it also in humans all the time. So how we mess it up is mom may not have the full complement. So it's like me giving you a gift. Let's say I give you a Tesla, but I'd like take all the wheels, like all the wheels are gone. Well, what the fuck? Like, how useful is that, right? You can have the most awesome, like, fastest Tesla on earth, but there's no wheels. Well, that's how babies are born now. They're not getting the full complement of anything from their moms. In fact, they're getting pathogens, fungal overgrowth, viral overgrowth, all kinds of shit from mom.
I've seen some research that it gets worse from generation to generation because our diet is changing, and because the diversity in the gut of the mother, there is impaired microbiota in the child, and that is actually getting passed down. So even if you eat the best diet in the world, if you got dealt a bad deck of cards, hand of cards, it's passed down, and the research is showing that it's getting worse with each successive generation.
It's exactly, you're totally right. There's animal studies, but we see it in the human population. The Western world, not really rural areas, not really, Hadza and Maasai and
westernized.
hunter-gatherers. But a lot of hunter-gatherers are even using a lot of antiparasitic meds, and they're kind of getting that way too because their environment's getting broken down. They're losing diversity in the rainforest or their environment, so that's reflecting gradually on their health as well.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, okay, so one generation gets no wheels on their Tesla, and then the next generation has no steering wheel, and then it goes like no engine. It's getting progressively worse. So this is the first time in human history also, Dave, that kids are dying before their parents and grandparents. This is unprecedented. Kids are getting diabetes, obesity, all kinds of horrible health conditions, cancers and ailments,
autism,
autoimmune disease, spectrum,
ADD. So, I mean, there's so many things that are being linked back to the gut now. And what still puzzles me is that it's largely unrecognized when you go to a conventional doctor, unless they're really doing some deep troubleshooting. But it seems to me that a stool test should be part of a routine physical. And that's not the case. It's rare that will come up in the course of a conventional treatment, and yet it's becoming connected with everything from mental health to physical health. So,
absolutely.
Can you comment on is it just different philosophies and different styles of practice that?
Well, we look at medicine, and I come from traditional pharmacy. We were taught about drugs. Drugs are the only solution. I mean, diet and exercise a little bit, but we know now the foundation of that diet experience was like completely false based on false data. Low fat, and more low fat, and lots of whole wheat, hybridized wheat all day long. And we know that's based only on like food recommendations directly coming from big food. Well, we have big drugs, and they're just pushing more and more drugs and vaccines on this like unknown population that are kind of like cattle. So the only treatments are what's available, pushed out by modern medicine right now, and they're 1 or 2 pops, dollars per day per pop. These aren't cheap therapies, and then they don't even work. Consistently, we would have so many clients every year progress in their condition and need 2 or 3 more drugs at each year. But what I saw with paleo and going, like, I love Robb Wolf because instantly when clients followed paleo, all their conditions would reverse. And for him, his IBD, which is horrible autoimmune, for the gut condition, it would reverse. And I wish I'd known that because I had Hashimoto's at one point. And I didn't, my sister and I, we were completely, we embraced like paleo when we heard about it. And then we saw huge changes for our family's health. Like my niece, was able to reverse a lot of gut issues, and she reversed autism. Like she's like 98% now autism free, even though she was born with it. So there are so many changes that we know of outside of diet and exercise, but it takes work. It's not easy that the gut is damaged from birth. And then, so the first, 10, 20, 30, 40 years of people's lives, And I'm not different than that. And then you and I have done all the testing, so we've seen the improvements after we've worked on the gut and fixed the gut.
Yeah.
But a lot of people haven't. Yeah, and I don't even like the stool testing because it only measures the last meter and a half of the gut. But our gut lining, our whole gut lining is the upper GI, and it's 5 to 7 meters long, but it's all the upper. And we need urine tests to actually assess that, or use Biome, which is organic acids,
Yep.
or someday we'll have a plugin for Heads Up app. That's Heads Up Health.
Well,
we should design it.
We will work on that. We've already been scheming along those lines.
Yeah, piss on a strip and then get your whole gut organic metabolites.
So we've talked a lot, and you've alluded to working with individuals who have had their gut trashed from even just one course of antibiotics, completely unsuspecting. You go to the doctor, you have an infection, they give you antibiotics, you feel better, and then you're like, man, my gut is effed. You put the pieces back many years later. So what are some of the things that really mess with the gut? I mean, there's environment, there's antibiotics, there's refined sugar and carbs. What are some of the things that really trash it the most that we need to be aware of?
You mentioned all the big ones. If we add up all the little things, they all eventually add up. It's just like what broke the camel's back. Everyone comes with a different back, what the burden is on their back already, but what actually breaks it can be multiple things. But we know with a lot of autoimmune diseases, it'll be stress. And the reason why stress can hurt the microbiome is that when we have stress, we have high release of adrenaline and cortisol. So I'm always against lifestyle practices that spike these for people who don't have good barriers for it.
Yep.
Because when cortisol spikes, it's just like a steroid that we give clients or people get for autoimmune conditions. Steroids cause ulcers. So if you're spiking your cortisol, you're causing little micro ulcers, and we have studies for that. Some of our best endurance athletes, athlete studies show when they're in like supreme, working out, and even though they have elite fitness, their gut will break. They'll have a minor break in their gut. They get either blood in their urine or stools. They don't quite get rhabdo, but they can get little breaks. The worst part is they can get ischemia in the colon. Mm-hmm. And that's called like a heart attack in your gut.
This is physical.
Yes, because as they're pushing all the muscles to work in their endurance event or in their acute, CrossFit or whatever they're doing to the point of throwing up, that's never a good idea if you're getting your gut involved to the point of throwing up. Yeah. So studies show, in really, intense exercise or endurance events, there's all these signs that happen. They athletes complain of nausea, vomiting. They also have, gut problems like blood is seen from the gut, in urine or blood.
Yep.
And they can have ischemic events because the blood instead is diverted from the splenic bed and the gut because it's all shunted to only work to go to the areas that are working. So brain, muscles, all the quads, glutes, but other areas of the body.
And you're working with top tier athletes, so you're seeing this on a regular basis. People who are pushing their bodies really.
Yeah, clients are. We work with executives. We work with multitasking moms. We work with all kinds of athletes, Spartan racers, triathletes, Iron people, Ironman, Ironwoman, and they can have all kinds of gut issues. Sometimes also the other thing that can break the gut is you mentioned the antibiotics. Usually they can all mention.
Give us an example of like someone who takes one course and you've seen them, or multiple courses, and how do you even start to repair that?
So we even have clients post Lyme. They've been on tons of antibiotics for 2 years. So clients will tell us like, yeah, I kind of noticed like after this antibiotic, then my health was just not the same. I started getting rashes. That's a gut thing. There's a skin gut axis, and it can easily break. But we can also easily fix it. A lot of our clients, they used to have acne. Any kind of chips or dips or weird food, sugar, they get all kinds of acne. But after working with us, when we fix the terrain of the gut, they can eat anything and not trigger that. That's really awesome to hear. I used to get acne that like travel all over my face and back and neck, and then now I can eat all kinds of crap and actually like nothing really happens.
So let me interrupt for a second, Grace. Very specifically, what do antibiotics do to the gut?
So antibiotics, we have like different spectrum, gram-positive, gram-negative, really broad. Even in functional medicine, there's a drug I really hate. It's called xifaxan, so I know it always have a job, but it's broad spectrum, not absorbed. So it kills off both gram-positive and gram-negative. Yep. Antibiotics have been a great boon for humankind because we don't die from all kinds of cholera and weird conditions or infections and amputate body parts all the time. And they treat acne, like we know that. But doesn't treat the root problem. A lot of acne is the lack of good flora, and our guardian flora are what keep pathogens at bay. That's why
Hmm.
hunter-gatherers, they have great guardians in their gut, and they don't get certain conditions. They're really healthy. So antibiotics can be either narrow spectrum or really broad.
Hmm.
And more as humankind has gotten smart, they've gone broader and broader. Let's like not just you know kill off a few bad things. Let's fucking nuke them all. Let's
Yeah.
like, it's like Vietnam when they were putting Agent Orange and everything,
70
because the
million liters.
rainforest was
Yeah.
killing them. They couldn't
Yeah.
get through it.
Yeah.
So let's just now they have like all kinds of problems there, right?
So
But
it
so when you
nukes
lose
it.
diversity, when you nuke something, you're eradicating also the good, depending on the
Yes.
dose, depending on the spectrum, depending
Yep.
on the person's own individual threshold that they come to the table with. Yeah.
So stress, I know I've seen that in my own life. I've had exercise-induced insomnia, which is just extremely elevated cortisol. And even before that, in my own life, I was under extreme stress at work. And
Hmm.
as I mentioned to you, it was a gram-negative infection in my gut, which had been undiagnosed. So that's definitely one. Antibiotics. Any others you want to just touch on that
Yeah,
are the
we have
biggest?
kind of like this menagerie in our gut. It's not exactly an infection. You didn't get a fever. You didn't get like flu-like symptoms. Some people come to me, they have all kinds of subclinical infections, but they have no signs except sometimes they get a little ragey or they get a little agitated. Like there's this little hamster,
So completely normal
Yeah,
labs when they go to the
yeah. People
doctor,
can,
but there's still
labs look great. No
subclinical
high blood
things.
pressure, not even high blood sugar sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And then what I do, like with clients like you, in your case, we remove the bad thing, and we replace it. We recolonize with what should be there.
Yep.
So we have great tools for that, right? Different probiotics. I actually had to formulate my own because we couldn't really get these to anchor, but ours does a fantastic job. Which means I actually have to send you some because you actually haven't tried it yet. But
I would love to.
no,
So that's
and
your art form, though, is you're reformulating. You're looking at what's going on, and you're strategically reformulating. Is that a good way to think about it?
yeah, and someday we'll get even customized kinds that will be suitable for everyone and their genetics. Right now, we're not, but in a way, our kind didn't really anyway.
Hmm.
We took from the environment. Whatever was in the environment, that became us.
Yep.
The problem is some of these strains only come from mom. So you're basically some of the strains are just going to go extinct.
Yeah. So
And
if
your
your mom
mom, you're
didn't
not
have
exactly,
it, you're not
yeah,
born with it. You didn't get it at all,
yeah,
perhaps. And this
yeah.
is yeah.
And
Okay.
even 20 years later, if you try to lick mom's butt, you're not going to get it. Like
So
it may not seed because you got too many things growing
yeah.
in the gut. And that's a lot of reason when we look at repeat testing, if it's not seeding, there's something going on. And usually there's other overgrowths that we haven't quite addressed, let's say.
That makes
Yeah,
sense. So it starts with even when you're born, and the
it
hand
can.
you get from mom and dad, and then
Right,
it can be lifestyle and environmental and other
right,
things. So
right. And
and
the average antibiotic number of courses in US
yeah,
is by the
it's
age of
huge.
18, 17 courses. And
Yeah.
I'm a child of a doctor, surgeon doctor, like, so we just got blasted. And then I'm grateful for
Sorry,
antibiotics because I
17
had a horrible
treatments
burn.
is the
Mhm.
average for an individual. 17.
Yeah, 17 courses by age
Wow.
18 in
By
US.
age
Yeah.
18.
And most of Europe is not quite like that yet, but
Yep.
certain parts, like really like big cities in Germany
Yep.
and, I think UK too, like they're up there like us. Yeah.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah. And then the other damages come from, we get loads of pesticides. Those have a microbiome effect. They're antibiotics. They're killing pests, but we have pests in our gut and good pests, and they're all getting annihilated. And then we have fluoride, we have chlorine, in the water. Like a little bit's fine, no problem,
Yeah.
but we pay for the conveniences.
Sure.
I mean, for most people, it's not a big deal, but other people are super anal about it. They got chlorine filters, everything, and because they have cancer risks, they have other risks. You can't squash everything in your microbiome and think you're going to be okay and not get melanoma and get other things. It's really the microbiome. It's not necessarily cancer is just going crazy.
Cool.
Because, yeah.
So let's shift to then some of the things that maybe symptom wise, someone who may say, I think I'm doing everything right. I've got the diet dialed in. I've still got, what are some of the subclinical symptoms that the average person might want to start thinking about to say that maybe this is an area I should look at?
So what I hear all the time is people wonder, like, out of the blue, suddenly they can't do something. So it can be anything. It could be holding their breath, could be athletic performance, could be cognitive, like brain
Physical,
fog,
mental,
fatigue,
yeah.
and body fat issues are the main things. Toxic body fat, high blood sugars.
So you
Yeah, a
can't
lot
lose
of
weight.
people are just
That's
starving
a good one.
themselves or doing keto themselves, but really it's their biome that makes them they're prone susceptible to higher blood sugars. It's not normal.
Yep.
You should be able to handle carbs. So we
Yep.
give the ability to eat carbs again for a lot of people, like
Yeah.
with our treatments. Like it's great. Like I don't think we should be eating carbs all day long or drinking sugar all day long, but we should have some resilience because Jason Prawl has an amazing movie coming out with Michael Roslin and some other producers. It's called The Longevity Project, and they've interviewed a lot of microbiome experts, all kinds of experts around the world and practitioners. It's amazing. And I have a short feature in there too. But
Nice.
and when we look at blue zones are areas where there are high concentration of centenarians, and they're all over Earth. And there's something that separates all of them. They eat their ancestral diet. They live in their ancestral homes. They're active. They communicate and connect with all their neighbors
Community.
and family members. It's
Yeah.
their community, and many other things. Their diet. They eat right off the ground. They have a great diet. It's called being poor.
Yeah. Lots of dirt and right from the
Lots of
ground,
dirt.
and no, it's not ultra pasteurized and sterilized and things
and
like
no
that.
healthcare. Like usually
Yeah,
they're so
back
poor they
to
don't have healthcare.
basics.
So
Yeah.
they're not getting all the antibiotics, like 17 courses of antibiotics by age 18. That's another thing.
Yeah.
All of them eat carbs.
Yep.
They eat a special cooked starch called resistant starch 3.
Yep.
All of them eat it.
Yep.
Yeah, and then they also eat other high fiber foods like gooey tubers.
Yep.
Yeah. And the gooiness is the special, it's like our mucus. So it almost is the same thing that feeds our guardians and keeps that moat. We have a sterile moat that lines our whole entire gut lining, and it's very similar. And so, like, I have a mutation. I have a FUT2 mutation and a couple other mutations, which makes me highly prone to like mucosa issues, unless I'm on a gooey, inulin-based, gooey, mucousy type of fiber. Fiber is also known as prebiotic. If I'm not on that kind of diet, I don't do so hot. My brain's not so sharp. Yeah. So the common signs are, it could be 1, 2, or 3 autoimmune diseases, cancers, brain fog, fat, or toxic fat, particularly, and fatigue issues. Any of those could be a presentation. Anything mildly off, like I believe, and studies are now, verifying all of this, that they're related to gut dysbiosis. The microbiome, the terrain is off. Basically, what happens is things are missing.
Yep.
It could be the wheels on the Tesla, the steering wheel, the gas, whatever, because they break down our food. It's not their role for us is not just breaking down food. It's actually everything. Yep. They keep everything flowing. They give us antioxidants. They magnify the antioxidants we have from dietary polyphenols and other things.
So much like anything, our environment is not working in our favor. And people may say, why do I even have to worry about this? Well, it's because there's all these other things in our food system, in our lifestyles that can affect us that we may not even be consciously aware of. One thing that's interesting, we have a lot of people in Heads Up who are working on blood sugar-based illnesses, metabolic disorders. And there was a really great study mentioned actually in Robb's book. It was out of Israel, where they had 800 people connected to continuous glucose monitors and followed them for a week. And they actually found that postprandial blood sugar was in many ways influenced by the gut microbiota. And what they also found was once people started reducing those high blood sugar spikes and going on to a more stable blood sugar diet, the gut microbiome actually changed, and it became more favorable. It actually changed the composition. So what is the link then between postprandial blood sugar and the bugs in our stomach?
The link is the permeability.
Got it.
Yeah. Everything's permeability. And the thing is, actually, it's kind of hard to assess that. We have terrible tests for that. So I don't even test it. I just presume anyone who has a sign or symptom of a chronic illness or high blood sugars. I love everything on Heads Up app because every metric you check can be off. And that is a sign of permeability to me.
So let's then nerd out a little bit here.
Let's do it.
And let's talk about
and when we work on clients, they reverse all those metrics. They all normalize, and then eat carbs or whatever. They can resume their intensity of workouts or whatever.
so
not have like downstream effects.
So as the gut permeability improves, by switching to healthier diets, less toxins, less inflammatory foods, that will slowly start to improve our postprandial blood sugar. Did I get that right?
That's true. There's actually multifaceted layers I think what the guys in Israel did, they're amazing. They put people on diets that did not trigger HRV.
Yep.
If you eat an
Stress.
allergenic food,
Yep.
your HRV goes wonky, and
Yep.
you have no flexibility. You're not metabolically flexible at all because the food is triggering something because you're allergic to it.
Wow.
And you're only allergic to something if you're permeable.
Yep.
I don't care if you ate the best whole foods, organic, grass-fed diet on earth. If it's getting into your bloodstream, you're going to get allergic to it at some point. And some people just have different levels of that. So what we do is we end up rotating a couple foods in and out, or we really look at what's going on. IgG is the best pattern because it's
Yep.
a longer acting immunoglobulin. And sometimes people are allergic to their own flora, and that's really fucked. When you're allergic to your own thing growing in your gut,
That's a problem.
that's a big problem. Yeah.
So
Huge problem.
you made an interesting connection there that I
These
never
are the
made
worst
before.
clients too. It's like all of ours.
Well, you
It takes
mentioned
eight months to reverse all that.
a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
So
And
Grace, you
these
mentioned.
people may or may not have several conditions. They may have only one, but
Yep.
it's a lot of work.
So
Yeah.
is HRV a testing modality that you look for when you're working with the gut? Because I
Yeah,
had not
only
made
my
the
best
connection.
biohackers check it. But yeah, you got me onto the Aura Ring.
Yes, here it is.
Anyway,
Now part of Heads
yeah,
Up. So we can look at that
yeah.
data in a second, but
I got my
let's
fake one for fitting here. Thanks, Dave.
let's start with Mother Nature's own best biomarker, the Bristol chart, which
Yeah, you're
is something.
badass for adding that. You're just so badass. The
Well,
whole Heads Up Health is awesome. We have all our
anytime you have
clients
a
on it.
free
And my
metric
clients
from
love
Mother
me
Nature.
at Bulletproof. They just love you to death.
So no device, no app, no needles, no stool samples, blood samples. All you have to do is look in the toilet bowl, and that tells
Free.
for free. And I can tell you that when I was on keto, I had lots of type 1, and we're going to get into what that means in a second. But then I noticed if I started eating a lot of prebiotics, onion, garlic, shallot, kimchi, it would clear up in a few days. So
And you cleared all the vampires in your
I'm
neighborhood
going to
too.
share my screen here, Grace, and let's introduce the Bristol stool chart, because this is the
Yeah,
simplest thing that everyone
it
can
is
start with, and
simple.
it's free. So
It's not perfect. Like I still have clients come to me. They're on a perfect diet. They have perfect Bristol,
well,
but they still like we dig not even very deep into the organic acid, the Great Plains organic acid, Bristol, whatever, and they're still all jacked up. But it does help point people in the right direction. It's not perfect at all, but it does help us to assess many, many things.
all right, let's.
So yeah, everyone tends to know what the Bristol is, but a lot of people don't. So I think we should explain it. Yeah, the Bristol score is just so easy.
Here it is here, Grace. I'm just pulling it up. So,
Yeah, because you can be, anybody, if you are looking at your kids' stools or your dog, pet stools, your cat, your dog, or your own, like it just tells a lot. It's an easy indicator barometer of health.
So it tells you how fast the food is going through the colon. Let me see if I can pull up a good version of it here. So we're actually looking at different types of poop on podcast.
Yeah, it's how it's
number 1.
processed by your butt.
Yeah, give us a quick rundown here. So
it's not perfect, but there's it's all textures, right? Texture, color, the way it slides into water. So biophysics in
Yep.
water. What it should not do is like stain. Okay, the perfect Bristol is 4. We
Yes.
all want a 4, where it
Yes.
looks like a snake. It coils really nicely in your bowl. It slides into the bowl, doesn't stain or stick to anything in the bowl, and there's nothing floating, no pools of grease. It looks nice, no white little things, because that often is an overgrowth or mucus or whatever.
Yep.
Shouldn't have green mucus, shouldn't have
Yep.
yellow mucus. It should just be nice brown and dark, not terry black, because that can indicate like iron and bleeding, or bright red where there's blood and a new bleed. So when we look from type 1 to 3, those are more like irritable bowel syndrome, constipation. So
Yep.
IBS-C, like
Yep.
it's more constipated.
Yep.
And I just did a talk at HS. We'll post up the video shortly. We'll send you a link to post up here. But,
Please do.
constipation is highly, highly associated, like 30 to 100%, associated with cancer. Like, and it's associated with every condition, but so is loose stools too. So the other end of the spectrum is having type 5, 6, 7, 5 to 7. And these can be where they're not formed, they're just looser, no nice little serpent floating, going, sliding into the toilet bowl. And type 7 is just basically liquid, any kind of liquid leaking out of the but is never a good thing because the body just is not processing it correctly. And we see these improve within a week or two when we work with
Yes.
clients. They could have had constipation for, I don't care, like months, years, or decades. Like we try to normalize this as quick and fast as we can, just because when it's not, a lot of health is really disrupted. We've had athletes, they've had diarrhea for a year, and I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know how you dealt with it,
Yeah.
And then we quickly stopped that in just 2 weeks, and at worst like 4 weeks. And then a lot of people have pain, and either with pooping or just abdominal pain, and it could be diverticulitis related or just IBS or pre-IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, and autoimmune condition for the gut, and it's not great. We should not be having any pain in this area. We reduce all pain to nothing within 2 weeks, really, typically. Like it's just not normal. So our protocols just address like every component, and we have, it's awesome because they're really nourishing what we do, because things are missing, and what we're doing is kind of resurrecting certain strains that belong there, but they're gone. They're extinct for whatever reason.
So this is just a simple thing anyone can start to do. And like you said, it's not perfect, but most of the time you want to be in the type 3 and the type 4 ballpark. And if not, much like we talked about some of the symptoms earlier, this is another good indicator to say that you may need to introduce more fermented foods, more prebiotics, or potentially do some other testing. But this is the simplest and easy way. And at Grace's request, we built this feature into Heads Up. So here's my dashboard, and I'm going to add the Bristol chart on here. Now, you ask your clients to check this, and you ask them to record information on what they ate or how they felt. And how do you use that as a clinician, this information?
Oh, it gives me exact metrics to their progress. Like there's certain metrics and improvements we have to see every month. And I could just at a flash glance, just look at everything, and I could see where things are getting better. I love your app because we can color code things. So if things are off, like the color will be off, especially for graphics and lab testing ranges. I can just quickly see in a flash, like what's really off. And we can, customize. I have different normal ranges, functional ranges, and other practitioners for a lot of stuff.
So you're looking at this on a regular basis as one of your metrics, and
right. So it ties in with labs so well, because this is great, but we're not delving in very deep. We're not looking at blood, urine, breath, nothing. So like a lot of my clients, 25% come to us, they have low white count.
Yep.
They do a CBC, their immune system's fucked. Like who knows how long. It's usually always related to the gut and something with the bone marrow and other things. And it's basically 2 steps away from leukemia and lymphoma. It's unacceptable. Their doctors are usually breathing down their neck trying to like get a bone marrow biopsy on them. And I'm like, oh. And we reverse all that like in 6 to 8 weeks easily. So and because we're nourishing things, and it ties in because their stool will be off, their adrenal markers will be off. Yeah. And like their invariably sleep patterns are off, right? We check if we have the heart rate variability, that'll be off because it's
so you're
stiff,
looking at all of this stuff. You're looking
at blood
Bristol
sugars,
stool,
A1C. No one's A1C is like 4.8 or 9 unless they're starving themselves. That's ridiculous. You should be able to eat any kind of food and have an awesome normal A1C. So, and I actually like fructosamine better because actually a lot of our clients are taking a lot of antioxidants. Yep. They're actually really otherwise kind of healthy, so their red blood cells end up living long. So it gets glycosylated just because they've been floating around in the bloodstream longer. So it's not necessarily their A1C is off, but I like fructosamine. Like it just gives me a better marker. I think you just divide by 70.
Yeah, we have that in Heads Up.
Yeah.
So when
it's
you
all
suspect,
in there,
you
it's a
suspect
2-week
a gut
average.
issue, and then you start to look for other symptoms, which could be poor sleep quality, high HRV, poor HRV scores. And then in the conventional labs, you've brought up white blood cell count. So that's one that you look at. And then CBC on the conventional labs. What are some of the other things you'd get on a conventional panel that you'd look for? And what kind of ranges might someone, if they have their data at home and they wanted to take a look, let's start with WBC. What would they look for? And I'll pull up my data here and we can nerd out on it.
Yeah. I'm sure you're going to have Dr. Nature Winters on at some point. So we both love a range of 5 to 7. That's optimal. Too high is not great. It's like a sweet zone.
So I'm too low.
Yeah, below 5, maybe 4 to 5 is considered normal for a lot of lab.
Yep.
academic centers and labs, but it's not. It's already in the range of being really off. And a lot of clients come to us until we fix the gut.
Yep.
And then over 7 means there's like hyperimmunity. The body's really trying to fight a subclinical infection, as you know, until it gets tired, and then it goes, the other end. So we look at that. It's just a broad dashboard number for immune system.
Great.
It's not perfect yet, because most clients come to us, they're right in the middle, but that doesn't mean anything. And every client needs to do an iron and ferritin, because
Yes.
invariably all our clients, they're really high performing people.
Yep.
They're all iron warriors.
I
Their
think you said
ferritin's
I'm an
high, their
iron
iron's
warrior.
high.
You want me to
Pardon?
do you want me to do an iron panel as well, right?
I know, because I kind of suspect you just because
Well, I have
you're
it on
amazing,
here.
Dave. You do everything. I think
So-
yours was high. I think I was screaming at you about it.
Yeah, you were. So this is another marker. We're sharing the screen, and we're going to post this.
And you're
video on
sharing your
YouTube.
personal data, right?
Yes, I'm sharing my data for the
Right.
good of the community. I have nothing to hide. So here's my iron panel, and so that's another marker. It's typically with males. Are you seeing these elevated numbers?
Men and women,
Men and
even
women.
menstruating women, yeah.
So
and
a
then
full
some
iron
women,
panel.
we end up getting iron deficient, but then other numbers are still high. So
Yeah.
it's like they are able to compensate, but it's not ideal. It could be thalassemia, which is really common in the Mediterranean. It could be just iron overload. They have one gene, not necessarily the full carrier, like the 282 carrier state, but they're somewhere on there. And usually when we look, something's going on, like the HFE. We always do 23andMe, and the HFE will be off, and that puts us at risk because you're all rusty inside. And
Yes.
it's hard for the body to heal that rust and lower oxidation. So we do a lot of antioxidants to address that. We also make people bleed.
Yes.
So if you need help, I'll
Donating
stab
blood.
you.
Yes.
I'll stab you if you want.
Thanks. Well, next time we go out in the city, Grace, you can help me liberate some excess blood. So
Sure.
You're looking at ferritin as a marker then, and what else on the iron
It should be
panel?
below 90.
Below 90. So I'm at 323 here. I'm off the charts.
Yeah, it's going to be off the charts on a lot of things, but not your ferritin.
All right,
'Cause
cool.
it's an acute phase reactant. It could be various things. It could be trying to be involved with solving some kind of
This is 2 years
acute
old, this
inflammation.
data. So
I know, yeah,
I
but
need
it's
to run
probably.
another
I mean,
panel.
unless you bled, it's not likely to be.
So
much
WBC, iron panel. What are some other common ones?
So a lot of athletes they actually have iron overload. There
Yeah.
was a French study, and they looked at world athletes and champions. Okay, the champions, 80% of them were HFE carriers, and they may have had iron or not, high iron or not, but they were naturally doping. Their body had extra oxygen, and it's genetic. It's just an amazing facet of being an amazing athlete. But unfortunately for the gut, all of the pathogens love iron. It's a growth stimulator. That's why we want to address it.
Cool. So we've got white blood cell count. We've got the iron panel.
I look at liver.
We'll post links to all of the. We've got a lot of this stuff covered on our blog, the Bristol Stool chart. So
Yeah, I love
we'll
your
post
blog.
some
It's great.
resources for people. Before we leave the conventional labs, from a gut point of view, Grace, I know that you love to just dissect data. And so, what else? I know how your mind works. It's just you're looking for patterns in this stuff. So, anything else on the conventional panel before we look at some of the functional tests?
Yeah, so liver is another, because it's sort of like the garbage can.
Yes.
All blood flows from the gut, and then the second place is through the portal vein over the liver. So it's sort of just the garbage can.
So
So I look at liver, and depends on the month, half to 80% of our clients will have wonky liver.
Yeah.
And you really want to look at liver because that's a cause of insulin resistance.
So
high
which
blood
metrics
sugars.
specifically?
So liver test is ALT
Yep.
and AST.
Yep.
And the other names are SGBT and SGOT.
Yep. So we've got them on the screen here.
Yeah.
And so those are
And we
two-
go with functional ranges because normal, healthy people controls, they have for women, because it is a little size-based, but women have, for both markers, it's 12 and below. For men, it's 15 and below. So a lot of clients come to us, it'll be 2 to 3 times above normal, no big deal. And then
Yep.
6 to 8 weeks is like normal. There's like various strategies, but mostly it's fixing the gut so that these toxins from the gut are not streaming and dumping and garbaging up, corrupting the liver. Because the liver's just trying to detox. It gets fibrotic, eventually it can lead to fatty liver, or worse, fibrotic changes and DNA changes, and then cancer. Again, it's all reversible because
Yep.
you have 3 loads, you can chop one off. It's not a big deal, but we want to kind of preserve everything because it's the hugest organ in our abdomen, actually, other than the gut, and it does so much for us, and it's so important. It senses everything. So, and we get insulin sensitivity messages from the liver.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
you touched on a separate topic, which is
So
conventional
you
ranges.
improved yours a lot. I bet it
Yeah,
was
mine
your
actually look
treatments.
pretty good. So you're looking
Yeah,
at
they
these
look
two
awesome.
numbers. They look great. We can get into like the difference. For a lot of people, they're just looking at the ranges on their lab test from Quest, which can be very misleading because, like you said, it's a very broad bell curve range. And then there's
Yeah.
functional ranges. That's the number one request from all the functional docs we speak to is the ability to customize these ranges in Heads Up. So that's on the top of our list.
Yeah, I love
Um,
it. I'm always changing them.
any other things here before we delve into some of the functional tests?
I'm like the biggest whore for vitamin D. Like for me, like unless someone has a high 125,
Yeah.
that's not on yours. But a lot of people will check the 125 as well. We don't want to see that high. It's not normal to be
Okay.
high.
All
Yeah,
right.
but we aren't in a lifestyle where we're out in the sun all the time, and most of us have ancestry where we did great in the sun. Especially equator base and otherwise, and um, it's so helpful. It heals the gut, it heals immunity and bones and all our pathways. It touches upon all pathways. But whenever someone's supplementing with D, it's always important to get all the cofactors, K2, A, tocotrienols, mag, zinc, all iodine, all the minerals too.
Cool. So D is another big one. Sun exposure. If you can't get sun exposure, supplementation.
Right.
So
Right.
that's a great list. We've got fructosamine, we've got white blood cell, we've got the iron panel, liver function, and vitamin D. And we can post the functional ranges as well.
Yeah.
So if you have your labs at home and you have a conventional range on the test, we're also going to post the functional ranges, which is a much more discerning range, and then you can see if you're in or out of range compared to the functional tests. So that's great. And then there's also the functional tests like organics that I've done here. And so when would you recommend those, Grace? And which ones are some of your favorites?
We do organic acid on everybody to start off with.
Got
It's
it.
just our baseline,
Got it.
like foundational lab. I don't even check stools for some people. So we
Just
sometimes
straight
go
to
by
the organic.
symptomology, but
So
yeah,
what is it? Most people have probably never heard of it. Maybe you can just, it's urine based,
yeah.
but give us a brief 101.
So our blood will get filtered by the urine, kidneys into urine. So in urine, we can pick up all kinds of markers. And what I love about the Great Plains Organic Acid Test, or OAT, it's called an OAT, is that you can see every facet of the gut. You can actually track Clostridium overgrowth, and Clostridium is super nasty.
Yep.
Can cause either diarrhea, C. difficile, and death. Or horrible constipation for decades. Because it's a neuromuscular blocker. It's what we use for botulinum. Botox. This is what we give vaccinations for tetanus, C. tetani. Because people get all spazzy and weird, because and Clostridium spores are everywhere. We, really want to identify them if they're present. And then fungal overgrowth. What happens when we take an antibiotic? Well, we get fungal overgrowth. That's what happens, and we get bacterial, pathogenic overgrowth. So invariably, everybody has some kind of fungal overgrowth. The problem is sometimes people also have aspergillus overgrowth, but with the Great Plains OAT, I love it because we can detect that, because that makes treatment a little tougher and more, has to be a little more aggressive, because from a moldy environment or someone really immune compromised, they shouldn't have aspergillus growing in them. And if it appears there, it complicates the picture, it makes it harder. So we have a lot of clients like that, actually, that are biotoxin affected. But it affects a lot of things. They just cannot break the barrier. They can't get their sugars down. They can't get the performance they want. They don't understand why. And we also see adrenal, so we talked, and I got a picture
My
about
adrenals,
what you do.
I'm actually not even going to show them because they're like
Fried.
they're completely fucked.
You're an entrepreneur. You're a startup, your own startup. I mean.
All right, let me just share them here because it's
But I'm equally fucked. Like I got thriving business.
And so those numbers
get busy
for me,
when you're busy and serving people in your community. So, but we just do the best we can. But we have a lot of tricks. Like you tried one of our massive tricks.
I did, yes.
The botanical teas, and
yes.
You felt great and had more energy, and then you were able to lift. Awesome.
Yeah,
that's
my biggest weakness. Whenever I was working with my functional doc, he couldn't find anything wrong. All my labs came back perfect, and then he ran the adrenals, and that's when it started to suggest that there were symptoms and manifestations of stress. That was his first clue, was the adrenal saliva cortisol. Then he ran the stool, which revealed the Klebsiella, and this was all stress-induced from who knows what, work or whatever the case might be. And then we did the organics as well, and that was my process that I went through, and that's everything else was normal. I went to the doctor, my labs were perfect, but
Yeah.
there was subclinical stuff going on, and it was all things that are not part of conventional labs. Let me pull up the
Yeah.
biohealth
And you have
labs here.
enviable HDLs, no matter what your diet was. Like, you have really high HDLs.
Here it is,
Like,
Grace. You
they're as
can,
good as the girls.
yeah, you'll see a
Happy
lot
good
of red
cholesterol.
on the screen here, and this is my adrenal results out of range. Although my morning
That's,
cortisol got way better. Some of the
yeah,
other
that is
cortisol
good.
numbers got worse, but overall the numbers improved, and this is back from June. So
Yeah.
this is representative of someone who pushes themselves to the max, I think.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Like,
have it any
working
other way.
hard, playing hard, yeah, everything hard.
Yes.
Lifting hard.
And for I should mention that Grace and I are buddies, and we go out and have fun in the city sometimes. And
Too
so,
much fun. I know.
yeah,
Pay for
we've
it.
been known to indulge.
But we know all the barriers to protect. So
Yes,
it's
we do.
like all good.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I'm sure we're gonna have
That's
many
the
more.
key.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, we've had some good times, and hopefully many more. So
Absolutely.
Grace, what are just some of the best practices that people can implement to improve gut health, and just some general takeaways that everyone can implement here? And if they have questions, where might somebody go to get in touch with you, or start to do some of their own deeper digging here?
Yeah. Um, we have group classes,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll send you a couple links, but they can always contact us through the website, and my
Great.
staff will take care of it. And
Mm-hmm.
we have awesome media. You know, a lot they can hear. Any of your audience can hear what we try to share with people, and we actually teach all our protocols. We had an event last year, teaching coaches and concierge doctors our protocols, and we'll have one again next year in 2018. So, and soon we'll have those videos out if people are interested to learn what our protocols are. But I mean,
Where would they find those, Grace? Online?
they're all on our website,
Which
thegutinstitute.com. And
the
if you
gut
go to the media tab, yeah, a lot of our presentations are there. We'll pop the new one up for Ancestral Health 2017 from Seattle. We'll pop that one up.
Yep.
But I'm like the biggest bug freak, you know. No drugs. How about bugs, you know?
Yeah.
Bacteria are like are key, you know. And I love this. I love our probiotic. It really gives like flexibility to eat all kinds of food allergens,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's gluten, dairy, or whatever someone's allergic to, eggs or whatever. And it's just foundational. It's what everyone may be missing. And we hear all kinds of amazing stories. Even for iron overload, people try, you know, all their aches and pains go away. Or, you know, someone who lost the ability to eat gluten, you know, they take in, and oh my god, in 2 weeks, no problem, you know, eating some again. Or even if they get accidentally glutenized, you know, it's not a big deal at all. Maybe a little, but you know, after they've been on for 2 months, then it's like no problem at all. And then we have we sell that. It's called Bifido Maximus. It's on our store. You know, on the website, thegutinstitute.com. A new probiotic we love is called Bifidobacterium lactis. We have some in ours, but this is a special strain called B420. And in 2 human studies, it's shown to help with weight loss. So
even if you're stuck, you're doing all the diet stuff right. 'Cause we hear
yeah,
that a lot. It's like I've got everything dialed in. My macros are perfect. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, and there's no weight loss happening at all. And that's when you need to start double clicking a little bit and looking a little bit deeper, including gut. So there's a strong connection there for people who may not be getting results they need. There's some subclinical things that may be gut related.
yeah, and we actually don't do a lot of fiber until we kind of look at what's going on, because fiber will feed even the bad flora, and
Yeah.
I really wouldn't want that for people and develop like you know new gut issues. That'd be horrible, and that's a problem though, because there's a whole menagerie, and you kind of have to tease it out before you just throw. You could be
Yes.
throwing gasoline on a fire, and you
Yeah.
just
It
have
sounds
to be
good. You need more
prudent.
fiber.
I know, it sounds awesome. Yeah,
but you may not. Okay.
yeah. There's why a lot of people, when they do lower carb or keto, they feel awesome because they have starch eaters. You
Yeah.
know, and we can easily, like, Klebsiella is a big starch eater. Citrobacter, E. coli, a lot of them are. They love sugar. They love carbs. You know, all kinds.
Yep.
So we kind of, you can shift things, but most of the times I find people are just having so many bad things to the ratio of good things. It's not 50-50 anymore. It's more like 80-20. So we have to kind of be careful and prudent. And then those two probiotics, so our Bifido Maximus and then the B420. The B420, the Bifido lactis, I mean, gram for gram, it costs more than cocaine, like per kilo. It's so expensive. It does amazing stuff. That's why.
Cool.
And what it does is it seals the gut. So then you're not having this permeability, and you
Yeah.
can lose weight. People have better. Ours does a lot too, but we don't get the fast weight loss as quick as
So
this one.
it's a fast way to address permeability, which can take a long time to heal.
Yeah.
So if this can accelerate the process,
It does.
then
It
that sounds
accelerates. And then
awesome.
the other third accelerant we use is called SPM. You'll have to give it a try. But it's used for pain protocols. We've been just seeing accelerated gut recovery with it. It's not perfect.
Yep.
We don't use this in isolation. But even if people try it in isolation, they're losing weight, they're healing their gut faster. I don't even take it regularly, even like 1 or 2 a day, like, because I get lower blood sugars to the point where I'll pass out during a workout, like during, Muay Thai or running. So I can't. It like it so sensitizes insulin so much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but we love it because it's a resolvent. It's a fraction from fish oil after you've digested it, and it's gone to that highly, highly, highly potentized anti-inflammatory component known as resolvins. And only this company sells it, Metagenics. And we do a loading dose with clients. It helps inflammation all over the body. Can reduce pain, fibromyalgia, and other things. But we see much faster recovery of all kinds of health issues. And I see my clients, they have much lower blood sugars with it if they're combating that.
Yep.
But weight loss happens way faster. Yeah, way, way faster.
That's great.
Yeah. So the combo is really great, but people start with Bifomaximus. Actually, one of my CrossFit coaches recently, he's very pretty healthy, but he lost 6 pounds on it. I don't really hear that too often. I think he actually had done a lot of homework already. And then when we add the other things, people lose 10, 20 pounds and they see awesome gut health. I mean, that's the key. We want longevity. I mean, it's not that you're going to be on these forever,
So
but if you
gut
heal
health,
things,
when
then you can
things
go
start
forward.
fixing, then the weight starts coming off. I've noticed that in my own health. Actually, it happens more effortlessly, and your homeostasis in terms of your weight just starts to normalize. It takes a lot of work, but it sounds like these products can help accelerate that process.
I think so. And what I love about all these things mimic what we should have. Like we should have the bifido, longum, and rhamnosus strains in our gut.
But we don't. The soil's
Yeah,
changed.
we don't. Right.
We're
Same
putting
with the B-lactis.
pesticides.
It's only
Things
from
are
mom's
genetically
milk.
engineered, and we just don't get those things the way we used to get those things. We've got antibacterial everything these days. So
everything.
this is a way to help with that.
And you do meditation, right, Dave? And you plug in. You routinely do meditation. I mean, that's how we kind of met. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
People meditate, and studies show when the vagal tone is higher, it's associated with a higher concentration of resolvins in the body.
Yes.
Meditation is healing.
Yes.
I just push it a little faster.
So you're combining
we just
several
add
modalities.
resolvins. Yeah.
Cool. And the meditation or yoga or prayer or anything or any spiritual practice,
laughing,
any community-based practice that brings down our amygdala, it brings down our cortisol, it brings down our stress response, and that also I think can be helpful as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, we covered a ton of stuff here, Grace. We talked about how you get your gut in trouble, which is the average person's on 17 antibiotics by the time they're 18 years of age, messed up environment. We talked about different symptoms people can look for, including the Bristol chart, including subclinical symptoms. Again, in my case, my labs were perfect, but I had a lot of gut-related stuff going on. Conventional labs, most people have these already. Log into your doctor's patient portal. If you have the records, Grace covered some of the tests you can look at: white blood cell count, iron numbers, vitamin D, fructosamine, the liver tests. And then your go-to is the organics, which people can get through your clinic or through
any
a
functional
properly
doctor,
trained functional medicine doctor.
And the Great Plains oat.
Great. And then some things we can do: manage stress through whatever practice you choose. And healthy diet and probiotics to accelerate the Oura Ring, and anything we missed, Grace? I think
that's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot for your audience to chew on.
Yeah, well, Grace, it was awesome having you as my first guest. I could not think of anybody better to have on with me, my friend and fellow data nerd. And if anyone needs to reach Grace, her website is the Gut Institute. And we hope to have you back again, Grace. It was really fun.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor. This is so fun.
Thanks,
Grace. Thank you.
Okay, bye.